In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to add a key to your XSD schema. A key has to be defined in the parent element or table before a relationship can be created between two tables. While this isn't exactly the nomenclature that an XML expert would prefer to use, Visual Studio and Microsoft uses tables and data set tables and elements pretty much interchangeably, because ultimately what are you going to do with the XML schema in the first place? You're going to create probably a data set from it. So we need to begin to look at things when we get into creating keys and relations in terms of how would you do this in a database. So just as we define relational tables by defining primary and foreign keys, we do pretty much the same thing with the elements within our XML schema that pretty much represent tables. So what I'm going to do is add a new key to customer element by going to the toolbox and selecting the key item from the XML schema tab and dragging it onto my customer ID sub-element. And when I do that, the Edit Key dialog pops up. Now before I change this, I'm going to cancel out of this and show you a different method of adding a key. Alternatively, what you can do is go to the customer ID, which is ultimately going to be the key for our customer table, if you will. I'm going to right-click it. I'm going to select Add. And at the very bottom, New Key. And it pops open the Edit Key dialog as well. So here what we'll do is define the key for our customer element. First of all, we can name our key, and the only reason we would want to do this is so that we can find it more easily when we go to create a relationship. So I'm going to leave the default name as is, but you're free to change that if you wish. Also from here you can select which element if there were multiple selected. And you can also add additional fields. So say, for example, that our key was comprised of more than just one value. Maybe it was the date, time, and the customer ID. Well, we could select here and add an additional field if we wanted to, but we don't. The next two checkboxes allow us to set what type of key that our key is going to be. For example, we can have two types of keys. We can have a primary key or a unique key. A primary key is a constraint that says this value, the customer ID, must be unique, so there can only be one record that has a customer ID of 7. But it's also optional, so you don't have to have a customer ID defined. It can be null. However, a unique key is both unique and required, so you cannot have any null values. So that's the difference between primary and unique keys. Now how you define that, although not stated quite that way in this dialog, you basically make selections here with the checkboxes. So what we're going to do is select that this is going to be a data set primary key, and that we're also going to say that it's nullable or not. So let's go ahead and leave the nullable off and select OK. So now what happens in just a moment, you'll see the elements come back into view, and you'll notice now that there's a little key next to the customer ID element. If we take a look at the underlying XML, we'll notice that at the very bottom that a key was created. The name is customer key 1, and that it is a primary key because we selected that option, and that the field is customer ID. Now we can have multiple keys defined for our schema, but in this case we'll just have this one. Again, why do we need to define keys? Well, that will become very obvious when you watch the next video about creating relations. A key is necessary because it establishes one column as being unique within all the columns for a given table, or in this case, a given element. And therefore, you can create relationships between tables or elements based on that unique ID, in this case, the customer ID. As I alluded to a moment ago, in the next video, you'll be able to create a data relation using this key that we just created. Thank you.